Bonjour, je suis not manly. Ici le voyage d'espace je ne sais quoi. Hard to believe we're only barely halfway through this if Galileo Team is to be believed. This is Paul, the last moon of Jool, a mere 260 kilometers across, and, well, surface gravity is about the same as Edna or Dres is. Not bad. Anyway, one solar day is about 5 hours. It rotates even faster than Edna does, and a pretty daunting inclination, but nothing impossible to overcome. Delta V to get out here takes about 1.4 kilometers per second from Laythe orbit. Capturing can be as much as 1.2 kilometers per second depending on your inclination, but landing is pretty easy with that spin at a mere 200 meters per second. It's a nice light snack after a long Jool 5 mission, and there's some pretty unexpected looking ground scatter for an airless moon. Quite unlikely in reality, I suspect. Problem is, just like other smaller objects, there's only 4 biomes. A tall craft could fall over due to that spin, and there are some dangerous fissures at the poles on this world as well. When we last left our heroes, Valentina, Bob, and Doug Kerman, they were getting ready for their ejection from Bob out to Paul. Fortunately, we weren't too wildly inclined from Paul there, so we did pretty good. There we go, some minor adjustments here. Not too bad. We'll get some nice zoom out shots here of Bob on the way out. As we've been shedding modules, this craft has been getting lighter and lighter, increasing our Delta V budget as we progress through this mission. And there we go. Nice close approach of a mere 50 kilometers. While that was going on, we're getting ready to send out the pain train back to Kerbin, and I seem to have lost control here. According to that, I've got no probe control and blocked by arrow shielding. Oh really, game? Well, okay, we're gonna work around that. We'll just turn off the comm network long enough to do this ejection. I don't know what's happening, but with that Medusa engine deployed, it seems to act as arrow shielding for some reason. When I retract it, I do regain control, and I don't know why. There's plenty of signal out here with the outer relays here. I'm not sure what's going on here. There we go. As soon as we open that up, we get some signal back. Look at that. I was going to do a precision adjustment out near one of the relays. Turned out I didn't need to, because I had plenty of signal with the Medusa engine retracted. I'm going to have to watch that when I send this craft out to Lindor. I'll have to have a different antenna hooked up or something. Anyway, we're getting ready for our insertion at Kerbin, which will happen in about 2.5 years. In the meantime, Valentina, Bob, and Doug Kerman were approaching Paul. There it is, barely visible in the distance. Kind of a yellowish green rock. I call it the little green sprout, even though it's kind of a yellow green. There we go. We already find the one object on the surface of Paul there. That's going to be very likely one of the random monoliths. So we'll get a rough location right here, and as we zoom out, as we enter into orbit, we'll get a more accurate positioning on that thing. There we go. In addition to the high space science, we do get some low space science on approach on this thing. Look at that. It's not quite yellow, but not quite green either. It's certainly not the speck that it was in stock. Considerably larger. There we go. So here's a Paul sunset. Not bad at all. Still have that terrain tile problem, but we're going to get that fixed up when we head out to Lindor. Again, this only seems to happen on Jool's moons. Okay, with a high enough apoapsis, we get a good zoom in of the surface of Paul, and we get a more accurate placement of that object. There we go. And with that bit of homework taken care of, we enter into low orbit, and we send Valentina out to the rover. This was the Bob rover, but there's plenty of Delta V in there after topping up its tanks. we can land this thing on the surface, and then Bob will follow up in the Tylo lander that we recovered from Tylo earlier. We'll use the Tylo lander to bring Valentina and Bob back up from the surface. I tried landing near the anomaly, but I just did not have any luck. It was more like, let's just get Valentina down there and she can drive over. Not bad at all. A little uneven surface, but nothing we can't handle at this stage. As we approach the surface, we start to see some of that unusual terrain scatter. In stock Paul, they had essentially stalagmites coming up from the surface, but this Paul, I have no idea what these things are supposed to be. I imagine it's possible to find these things on Kerbin or maybe on the real world Earth, but I don't know if there's any weather on Paul that would be wearing these objects down to this shape. If someone can explain where these things could come from in an airless world with no gravity, let me know. Anyway, we see if we could scan it, but like the obelisks on Laythe, they are just ground scatter and not scannable. Anyway, we got so much delta V on this lander here that we can do a very tight precision landing, just coming straight down with the help of that Octo 2 aboard. And there we go. And Bob was like, "Hey Val, I'm coming!" There we go. That strange center of mass on the Lunar Excursion module does make controlling interesting, but not impossible. Remember, I've got a small reaction wheel attached to that thing, so I'm not having to use RCS fuel to do this. Touchdown. And there we go. Oh yeah, you can't help but be allergic to whatever that is. Bob checks out this structure. It's actually hollow on the inside. We should be able to walk through this or fly through this. Let's take a look. Oh, EVA packs are a necessity on this really low gravity world. Oh, look at that. Oh yeah, we can walk through these things just fine. After doing the usual science, Doug here is going to deorbit that scaffolding because we're not going to need to keep any of the landers or rovers for the return trip. So to try to be good citizens, we will send that down to crash on Paul and not leave any space junk above Jool's orbit. And finally, this craft is in its final configuration for heading back to Kerbin. Now, Val and Bob do drive out to the anomaly. There it is, one of the random monoliths. And we pick up advanced off-world mining. Not bad at all. We come across one of the few objects we found on the minor moons of Jool here. This is some yellow stone on the surface of Paul. It's scannable, and it's small enough that we can attack it with a pickaxe and bring home a much larger piece. Perhaps some new type of cheese. Well, this isn't the syrup we were looking for back with the pancakes and the blueberries. Maybe we'll find the syrup on Elu, I don't know. Anyway, we send out Bob to pick up a piece of this thing to take back home and get a lot more science. 360 science, in fact. Look at that. And after that, we get a closer approach to the monolith so we can plant a flag on top of it. This will be our last flag for Jool. Congratulations, Valentina and Bob Kerman. You have gone so far, so quickly in this series. Because they came down in command seats, they only have 2 flags. That's okay. And there's the flag. I think this is the last stock random monolith we're going to find in the system. There's only one stock world remaining. Unless these guys have gone to the trouble of putting out more random monoliths. on the non-stock worlds? We're about to find out. Anyway, we do trek out to the North Pole, and you can probably guess what we're going to run into up here. Yep, it's another mohole. Only with Paul's low gravity, we actually stand a chance of descending into this thing safely and getting back out. Now, one thing Kerbals can do in command seats is they can transfer EVA fuel back and forth, so we top up Valentina's tanks with the contents of Bob's tank. There we go. So she's got a full tank of EVA propellant, and she's going to descend down as low in the mohole there as we can get away with. Oh boy, look at that. There's some ugly terrain seams down there. We need to stay out of that. Bob plants his flag so Valentina can pick it up and then replant it somewhere, hopefully on the very bottom of the mohole. There we go. Brave Valentina Kerman, checking out the bottom of this thing. This hole is about 1 kilometer deep. That is pretty close to datum level down there. The camera's messing with us. Fortunately, we have Kerbal Engineer to help us pinpoint our landing spot. Careful, Val, don't go in that terrain seam. Now let's see if she can stay there. Come on. Okay, good enough. Plant the flag and get out of there. Oh, hurry up and put that label on there. There we go. The North Hole. Now it's a matter of getting out of here safely. Trying to get a good camera angle to show off the edges of this hole in the ground. I end up trying to aim over there, but somehow... Oh, check that out. Oh, whoops. Uh-oh. Valentina loses control there for a moment. Come on, Val. Oh, fortunately she regains control before descending all the way down. Oh boy. Kilometer-old hole in the ground. Again. I might get brave one day on the heavier gravity worlds and check out the bottoms of those pits, but in the meantime, let's just get these guys back safely. Now this lander has so much delta V that I decide rather than try and drive down to the Tylo lander, let's just fly over there. I have a hard time pinpointing it because of Paul's really high spin speed, but we do manage to get it out there. We go up to Apoapsis. As Matt Lowndes says, if you're going to do a plane change, do it at Apoapsis so you're using as little delta V as you can get away with. Get some nice overhead shots of Paul's surface. There are some beauty craters here, but they don't count as their own biomes. There it is. There's the lander. Only reason we're going to the lander is because landers have an infinite number of flags, so we can go pick up a fresh flag and plant it down there. And there we go. Although I suppose if we wanted to be silly, we could have emptied the tanks of the lander into this thing. But nope, we should probably get back up to the main mission craft and not worry about any more flying around. Come on. And touchdown. All aboard the lander, let's get out of here, guys. One more flag for the road. Welcome to Paul. What'd I say? Oh yeah, on the surface of the little green sprout. The little yellow-green sprout, actually. Here we got the jolly green giant, and this is the yellow-green sprout. Anyway, We head back up to the main mission craft. We have all the Delta V in the world for getting back up there. In fact, we're a little bit ahead there, so we do some adjustments, fly up to a higher orbit. There we go. Very easy rendezvous above this little rock. Like I said, I'm going to take a break now for a while. It's the middle of the summer, there's just way too much to do, and we are barely just over halfway through, this being episode 17. We haven't even covered the sun, and then we've got the whole rest of the outer system. There's supposed to be another 13 or 14 worlds to visit. So we've got a long way to go in this series. It's a good thing we've got those nuclear pulse engines. We're going to need them to get out to the farther places. And there goes the Tylo lander for a Viking funeral on the surface of Paul. We plan our ejection out to Kerbin. I do note that we are actually pretty close here. Could wait a few more days for Paul to line up with that ejection vector, or we could just hightail it out of there right now. And that's what I ended up deciding to do. Because we got so much Delta V here, why not? Ejecting that nuclear pulse engine, and we do a big ol' ejection out. Be a pretty short return trip too. In stock, Jool is actually one of the easiest places to visit because of all the moons around it for gravity assists. It is a very big target. It's also really easy to visit here in the JNSQ system. I'm hoping Lindor proves just as forgiving. We'll find out when we get out there in a future episode. Bye bye, Paul. And bye bye, Jool. And its beauty ring of moons. We will be seeing you guys some other time, maybe on the way to Lindor, who knows. Anyway, the main mission craft arrives ahead of the rover pain train, and we do our insertion with a ridiculous amount of Delta V. Anyway, an eternity later, and we are back in Kerbin's sphere of influence. And with just over 5 kilometers per second to capture, I get a little anxious there with the time warp, and I nearly missed the maneuver. Whoops! Get back there. Val's not even in the driver's seat. She's hanging out with her crewmates in the crew module there. Look at that. Happy to let the probe core do its job. What a long insertion, even for this nuclear pulse engine. Welcome home, guys! I bet the press back on Kerbin is going nuts with the return of these guys. Hopefully the radiation from those bombs doesn't cause havoc. Oh well, this is Kerbal Space Program. You can do all kinds of exhaust and not have to worry. The more inviting sun above the surface of Kerbin. Some adjustments later, and lining up with the moon, and we get these guys ready to eject the habitat and bring these guys back home safe. About a half a year later, the rover pain train arrives right behind these guys, and we're able to recover it as well. We're going to see if we can refuel or rearm these things with more bombs and be able to reuse these craft to go out to Lindor. We'll find that out in the next episode. In the meantime though, we're going to bring these guys back safe. And it's just a normal Kerbin orbit re-entry at this point, so hey, I don't have that much ablator. There we go. All the science is aboard the command craft and aboard that probe core. I'm not sure what happened with the mission clocks. I went back to go look at the Laythe space plane, and it had an accurate mission clock. I don't know why these things got reset somewhere. Somewhere between Laythe and Vol, the mission clocks got reset. But these guys sure have been in space for a long time. Oh boy. Let's hope the mission to Lindor proves just as fruitful as the mission to Jool. Down, and I hope Bob and Doug on the Real World International Space Station come back safe as well. And these guys come back with a very, very large bounty of science. They come back with over 77,000 science, plus the science we didn't spend, and we've got almost 100,000 science here. We're going to get ready for our trip out to Lindor. We're not going to go out there yet, but we are going to take a break until then. Until that happens, I'm not Manly. Fly safe.